All right, guys. Good afternoon. Let's pull ourselves up here, John, so
There we go.
they can see us. There we go. Put us in the corner, at least for the time being. We'll give folks a moment to filter on in, and then we will get into the latest update as we go throughout tonight, further to the west, and then throughout the day tomorrow with some of the key trends that we're keeping an eye on with this storm system. John, you've been here all day watching this storm, watching it evolve. What kind of stands out to you first and foremost about it?
Well, right now, I would say, for those of you across northwestern Indiana, northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, really that kind of that outline of the pink where those winter storm warnings are a little bit north of Indianapolis. We'll get to Indianapolis, guys, but across the board, this is definitely going to be a very high impact system. A little bit earlier on in the season, we're seeing a lot of data supporting snowfall totals of 8 to 10 plus across the board. I think probably my other takeaway, though, is still that pesky I-70 corridor, Brett. It's once again, as we're getting down to the final points of the forecast, definitely challenging us a little bit here in terms of where we can see that cutoff for some of those totals.
Yeah, it always ends up being I-70. That just seems to be where it sets up. It's just a climatology thing. It is a coincidence, and it's a good geographical barrier to reference to. But it does so often end up kind of being on that dividing line, and this will very much be the case as well with this event. That's the biggest question mark. It's been the biggest question mark for the past couple of days, and to be honest, it still is the biggest question mark for sure. And we'll break down the risk as we go throughout this live update. But want to be sure to thank all of you all for hopping on. For those of you that have been on Clarity, been getting on Clarity, I know Michael's been doing the live updates on Clarity. After the storm system, these live updates will be going over there in the future. So if you have not yet signed up for Clarity, I'm going to pop the QR code up here. There should be a link in the comments that you can click on as well. But right now, you can sign up for Clarity Home, Clarity Pro for 40% off, or you can do the $8 a month for Clarity Home right now as well. There's been a lot of people that have taken advantage of that today, and that is still ongoing through Cyber Monday. And again, we really appreciate all of you all supporting us and hopping on to Clarity. I think it's going to be incredibly valuable for all of you as you go throughout this storm.
Absolutely. And Brett, I'll jump in here real quick too. We are going to be doing a client-only live stream tonight at 9:30 as we look over the latest data. So if you're a Clarity Home subscription, Clarity Pro, you will have access to that. It'll either be Michael or Brett that'll be kind of going through. I'll be asleep at that point, hopefully. But Brett and or Michael will be going through some of the latest in terms of the trends as we're getting very close to it. And there's so many great tools. We'll show off a few of them here in this live stream that Clarity has to offer. But excited to get started here, Brett.
Yeah, one thing real quick before I get into the live is I did see Steve here say, "Go Hoosiers," and I'm decked out. We're going to be tracking the storm, but I am ready for the IU Purdue game tonight, and I invaded Vince's office here, which he's got Ohio State back behind me, so trying to bring a little bit of the Hoosier mentality into the Buckeye land here in Vince's office ahead of what probably will be the big game next week. So just have to give my shameless plug there to my Hoosiers and your Hoosiers, John.
Go IU.
Yeah, but with that being said, let's get into it. Already some heavy snow moving out here across parts of Iowa. We've got in the pink winter storm warnings in effect right now. Winter storm warnings along and north of the I-70 corridor, including Indianapolis, up towards Bloomington, Illinois, Chicago, all the way up towards Green Bay. This is a big storm system. This is not a narrow corridor of snow. A lot of people going to be getting a lot of snow with this storm system. It's going to be extremely impactful as it moves through. I'm concerned, John, about, closures in terms of roadways and interstates in some of these areas where there can be more than a foot of snow locally and some gusty winds as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Brett. And I would say, the bigger thing about this system especially is there's so many that are traveling, coming back from Thanksgiving dinner and visiting family and going to different places that, essentially one of the, I would say, main questions I've been getting today is, well, if I leave at this time on Saturday morning, will I be able to get to X destination without snow? And honestly, the answer overall is no. It's just the widespread nature of the travel impacts, and we'll get into the favorite sim here as well. But it's just definitely going to be a cause for concern especially as we get into the late Saturday morning and then into the afternoon.
Yeah, so let's get into the simulated radar here. The time there in the top right, that's in Eastern time. So this is as we get throughout this evening. Kind of again this main corridor of snow working across Iowa as we get into tonight. Some very heavy snow really through the overnight hours across the majority of Iowa. Again, a lot of areas I think in there at play for up to a foot of snow in some spots, and that will bleed over into Illinois, St. Louis area as we work into tomorrow morning. We zoom out here, there's our low pressure system. So really the key element to this forecast, there's two key elements. Number one, there's cold air in place. If there was not cold air in place behind this front that worked through before Thanksgiving, this would be a totally different storm system. We've got the cold air in place, and it's going to allow for the risk of snow on the northeast side of the system before the warm up happens. Do still think there's going to be a warm up. The exact strength and track of the low will determine how fast warm air can move in. You can see warmer air, this warm nose into Kansas and central Missouri by the time we work into tomorrow morning. But on the eastern side of the storm, by 10 a.m. tomorrow, you can see we've got some snow working towards the Indianapolis metro area, and we've got pretty much the entire state of Iowa and Illinois socked in with snow, John.
Yeah, it's definitely a situation where almost, Brett, I would say with what we were looking at, atmospheric soundings, or what we call all the way from the surface to where you're standing to up to where the planes fly, just evaluating the atmosphere. A great recipe for snowfall rates of 1 inch to 1.5 inches per hour, which, even if you pre-treat pavement, it's not going to have any issues even being able to overcome that. So definitely a plowable event and slow going for travelers for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. Those darker blues that you see just indicating the very heavy snowfall rates, whiteout conditions. Do you think there could be some thunder snow with this? I haven't looked super closely at that, but
we were looking at a little bit of instability just towards southeastern Iowa, northeastern Missouri. It's certainly possible. It would definitely would not surprise me for sure, especially where those darker blues are.
Yeah, for sure. So just real quick, I want to address a couple of questions in here. Somebody asked, yes, the subscription for Clarity does renew automatically every month. And then there was another one that I saw that I wanted to address here. I'm hoping you live cast inside Clarity app is like on X where you can watch while you continue with other apps. It's through a link, so you should be able to click on the link and listen to it. I actually listened to Michael's yesterday afternoon on my drive home, or Wednesday afternoon, so you should be able to do that. Continuing on here as we go throughout the forecast period tomorrow, again, snow showers ongoing. Again, I think that this probably isn't the heaviest burst of snow through the Indianapolis area. The heaviest snow, the darker blues, you can see out here towards central Illinois by the time we work towards noon. In terms of snow up towards the Michigan and Ohio State game, you can see holding off perhaps at least for the first half, and then maybe working some snow in towards the end of the game. And then you can see here we've got some heavier snow moving towards the northern half of Indiana by the time we work towards about 4 o'clock. Now, I think, and John, correct me if you disagree, but I would say around this time is maybe an important time frame for the I-70 corridor in terms of, can we stay snow? Do we start to change over? Does that warm nose work in? It's probably towards the late afternoon and evening hours tomorrow.
Absolutely, Brett. No, I completely agree with you, and I think part of what you're seeing on simulated radar to help illustrate this, let's say from Indianapolis to Bloomington all the way down to Evansville, is you're seeing the further from north to south you go, those temperatures gradually becoming warmer. And as a result of most of the moisture kind of sitting just to the north of that, you're going to get a little bit more of that mixed precipitation. So a mix of rain, even some snow. So it's one of those situations where we can certainly still see, if you're in Indianapolis or Bloomington, some heavier snow pulses as we get into the early evening. But I'm concerned that because of all that warmer air, that moist air that's really helped pumping up that heavy zone that Brett just drew, one of the trade-offs to that with these snow systems is that oftentimes you're going to get rain to essentially cut off those heavier snow bands a little bit quicker along the southern edge. And, Brett, I think it's not to get too technical here, but with where that L is, that low pressure system over Illinois, Missouri, it's just, we're so far away from it. It's not every day you see systems that can produce snow this far to the east for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you can see this particular model here. Instead of surging the warm air as far north, it kind of keeps it along and south of Bloomington here, which allows for a continued burst of some moderate to locally heavy snow as we get into tomorrow evening, 6 o'clock. And again, this is the time frame, I think, because the warm nose, it's going to be there. It's going to be a battle in this region in here. How far north does it come? If it stays a little bit further south, there's certainly the potential in here of a period of some heavy snow. Now, don't get me wrong, the heaviest snow is not going to come to the I-70 corridor. The duration of snow up here is certainly going to lead to the heaviest and most widespread totals. But I think the key here is, the warm nose, how long can the cold air linger for the I-70 corridor?
Yeah, absolutely, Brett. And I think you make an excellent point about, when we think about heavy snow in terms of your locations that are seeing 10 to 12 inches, it is truly based on duration. And we're getting into 8, 9 p.m. Saturday here on the simulated radar. Look at northern Illinois, northern Indiana, southern Wisconsin, even southern Michigan. They've been under that band of moderate to heavy snow already at this point for a little over 10 to 12 hours. So it's definitely a system that is going to be very widespread. And as a result of that, that's why models, and we'll get into this, of course, too, are being very aggressive with the amounts of snow that we're seeing.
Yeah, for sure. And so here by about 8 o'clock is where your rain snow line is starting to warm things up, getting more rain in a mix to work towards Bloomington and to work towards like Madison, Indiana, north of Terre Haute, and then out towards Bloomington and Urbana Champaign out there. And then as we get further into the evening, you can see that does still eventually work into the Indy metro area. And we will likely end this system here with rain. Would not be shocked if some of the snow that falls actually melts. I do think that's probably an important thing to keep in mind too, is if we do warm up above freezing towards the end of this, when all is said and done, as we end with some rain, it may not actually look like we got as much snow as we actually did, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're looking for pictures for snow or making snowmen or snow angels, especially if you're along that I-70 corridor, get out there while it's still light and do it, because it's probably all going to go away by the time you wake up on Sunday morning. At least the good quality kind you need for pictures. But definitely a system that as we kind of start to see the rain showers exit, then we get more into, Brett, some of that backside lake effect. And also something important to bring up too is the temperatures are going to not just get to freezing, they're going to drop very quickly with some of this Arctic air coming in behind. So all of that wet pavement from either melted snow or just rain, that is going to quickly freeze up and cause widespread black ice concerns just as early as Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, for sure. You can see the temperatures here by early Sunday afternoon dropping into the low 30s and upper 20s. And so, especially in those sheltered areas, I would imagine there's going to be slick spots as we get into Sunday afternoon. And the temperatures will continue to get colder. In fact, take a look at how cold it gets by Monday morning, especially under that snowpack. Probably some single digits up here in Iowa, down into the teens and the lower teens across northern Illinois, northern Indiana, and the teens as well. So going to be cold, and this cold air sets the stage for what could be another storm system as we get into Monday and Tuesday. We'll talk about that briefly here in just a moment. Before we get to the snow totals, and I'm going to let John kind of talk about the snow totals of what we're seeing. He's been diving into the risk associated with that I-70 corridor all day. Before we get to that, I do want to give a shout out to Custom Restoration, who has been sponsoring these live streams, and they provide 24/7 emergency service. Probably going to be busy as we work over the next couple of weeks with the cold air that's coming in, from frozen pipes to water damage, you name it, when you get these winter weather events. So I want to be sure to give a big shout out to them. They're wonderful to work with. They are going to be there to help you. They're a trusted resource as we go throughout the winter time. And you can see they're 24/7 as well. Their emergency response there in the left, you can see 855-77-4775. And if I scroll down here a little bit, we may be able to, let me see if I can move their logo to the bottom left. It won't let me do that, but We'll I'll get their number up there in a moment. But anyway, super excited to have them on board. With that being said, John, why don't you take over and we will take a look at the snowfall totals.
Absolutely, Brett. Yeah, I think my screen's ready for you to click the button, and I think we should be good. There we go. So yeah, I want to show you guys our snowfall totals map and update that here. First, I want to show the snow probabilities. And Michael, if you've seen some of his streams this week, has done an awesome job at showing this. This is a fun tool that we get to use here, and you can still kind of note it's just as evident as it was a couple days ago, Brett. It's straddling that I-70 corridor here from St. Louis all the way to Indianapolis. As you get a little bit further to the northwest, you can see those percentages increase a little bit more from 50 to even 80%. And this is a probability of 6 inches within this system. So, and you know, if I zoom out of this, for those of you that are towards the Chicagoland, Milwaukee, Madison, northeastern Iowa, Waterloo, Dubuque, this is near 100%. So I have to be honest, Brett, just looking through the past few systems of memory in the past couple of years, even the best ones we've had in November, I haven't necessarily seen something this widespread.
Yeah, not this far south. You know, I can remember some instances up in the northern plains where you've had some really big blizzards early in the season. I know there was one in October several years ago, but it's rare to get this heavy of a snow system right around Thanksgiving. It could be a sign of things to come.
Absolutely. Yeah. The pattern definitely favors an active next couple weeks for us. And again, we'll get into what we're thinking for the next system here in a bit. This is our snowfall totals map that we put out to our Clarity clients here a couple hours ago and went over in the latest video update. I don't have the comments pulled up in front of me, Brett, but I can just see a lot of questions coming. So for those of you, this is the time to pay attention here. I'm going to get into this a little bit more details on what we're looking at. So what does this green circle mean? This is where we're looking at. And when I say sharp cutoff between a 3+ zone and less than 1 zone, think of yourselves living in one of the counties. Let's use Indianapolis for an example, since it's right in the center, or Terre Haute. Just north side of Terre Haute, seeing closer to around 2 or 3 inches. South side of Vigo County or south side of Marion County, close to 1 inch, 1/2 inch. That's what we're looking at in terms of cutoff. And I'll show an example of this in just a second. But given the fact, and again, the trade-off with having so much moisture here that is coming up from the south and pushing to the north of I-70, resulting in a lot of this heavier widespread snowfall potential, the trade-off is that warmer air and rain can come in and help cut that off. So that's why take 12, 15 models, pick them, you get 12, 15 different solutions off by about 5 or 10 miles, Brett. I mean, it's definitely something that has been challenging to forecast. I personally am really excited to see how this plays out. But what you're seeing here is a blend of over 100 models, very similar to what Michael showed yesterday here. And that's the important thing to really consider here. I'm going to come back to this here and we'll get into some questions. But another thing I want to show, this is an example of one of the models, the RRFS, that we've been using and favoring to kind of help make these decisions. And I'm going to zoom in here a little bit so we can see both Indiana and Eastern Illinois. Look at the shades here, Brett, of the color differentiation between, we get a little bit up to just to the south of Lafayette, 7 inches, get closer down to Lebanon, 4 inches, Indianapolis, it's showing somewhere around 1.7. That's what we mean when we say a sharp cutoff here. And that's exactly how we expect this to play out in terms of snowfall totals.
Yeah, it could very well be a situation. Anytime that I see a gradient like that in the color scale, John, that is a situation where the northern part of a county could get 6 inches of snow and the southern part of the county could get nothing. We have seen that happen before. That is not off the table. Again, I think some of it may actually come down to the leading edge, because if we do get some of that evaporative cooling, right, John, and we get some of the snow to come in, get a little accumulation off the bat, get it to stay a little bit colder. I think what happens as we go throughout Saturday morning, early Saturday afternoon, could determine how sharp of a cutoff that ends up being.
Absolutely, Brett. I think that's a fantastic point. And just a couple other things I'll add, just as I'm looking over this map and thinking of all the forecast data I've been seeing from this morning to earlier this afternoon. For those of you that are north of the green circle here, I'm pretty confident that we're going to be dealing with a 6+ event easily. And then definitely those yellow zones. There might be more streaks that see 10 inches versus 12 inches. But at the end of the day, and Brett, let me know if you disagree, when you're dealing with that much snow, there's not going to be a lot of difference in terms of the travel impacts. It's still going to be something that's going to take several rounds of plowing on the main roads. A lot of the side streets and neighborhood roads probably aren't going to be touched for a day or two. The rain showers that are going to be moving in from the south are likely going to help a little bit in that regard. But for those of us that are just seeing snow, especially in those yellow zones, I really would expect a lot more widespread, long-lived impacts here. The last thing I will say for those of us that are south of the green zone here, again, this is a blend of models seeing snow falling from the sky here. I think most of us with that initial round, Brett, that moves in here, likely during the Saturday morning hours into the afternoon, that might be enough, in my opinion, for us to see that coating of close to half an inch to an inch. But once we get later into the afternoon, especially for those of you that are more in the southern parts of this system, I would say in general that it's likely going to be more of a rain type of event here.
Yep, for sure. No, that makes sense. So guys, here, this is the forecast right now in terms of totals. This is our best estimate at this time. Again, that green circled area is just the lowest confidence part of the forecast, where there's a risk that the gradient could be a little sharper. South side could be a little bit lower. North side, maybe you can be locally heavier in some spots. But this is the best idea as things stand right now. And so you can see for your specific locations, the totals, 3 to 4 inches there around the metro area, 1 to 2 along and south of Bloomington. And then you get down toward Louisville and you're less than a half an inch.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brett, I'm kind of skimming through some of these questions here. Guys, these colors, think of them as more or less they're meant to be ranges. And again, it's likely going to be a little bit more narrow than what this blend of models has here. But real quick, one thing, Brett, just while I have the screen here that I do want to add, and you kind of alluded to this as well, but I want to show, especially for central Illinois and central Indiana here, this again. Notice, guys, these air temperatures that are borderline here just above freezing. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean, Brett, that we can't see kind of in this zone here some additional slushy snow accumulations as we get into the afternoon and evening. But what it does mean is that the snow rates are going to have to be heavy enough to be able to overcome some of that warmer pavement. So that's another thing that we're especially going to have to watch, really, between Dayton and Cincinnati, Indianapolis and Bloomington, Terre Haute, and likely just between Terre Haute and Effingham, I would say, in Illinois.
Yep. 100% agree. Why don't you, real quick, because I know some people are asking about timing, just briefly go over some of the timing of this again.
For sure.
Arrival time as we get into tomorrow, and then we'll take a couple more questions and probably wrap this up. Again, as John said, we'll be doing a client live as we work, 9:30 tonight. And of course, if you're on the Clarity platform, guys, all these questions are going to be answered for you because we're going to be sending Nowcast updates. We're going to be doing video updates. We are going to be, again, doing the client lives. You're going to be getting all kinds of constantly updated information as we go throughout the storm and the storm next week as well, that I'll end with here in a moment.
Absolutely. So yeah, let's go ahead and kind of start off here again. The times are in the upper right-hand corner here. And they're also, if the logo might be covering it up a little bit, I don't know if you guys can see the lower left here as well, but in general, we're looking at, and I just got one of my buddies sent me this question on a text. You see this green out ahead of this activity out in Illinois and then eventually Indiana. It's just radar static that the simulated radar has. It's all going to be snow as it pushes in from west to east here. So let's go over the timing for the central time zones here: 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 a.m. central time frame here, pushing across the state of Illinois, starting to get to the outer Chicagoland area, likely between 5 or 6, 6 to 7 for Madison and Milwaukee here. I'll go ahead and switch this to Eastern time. Now, again, once this arrives, and I would say especially for those of us that are north of this line, once the snow showers arrive, we do expect accumulations to start. I think that pavement temperatures, air temperatures, going to be cold enough. No concerns there immediately in terms of any type of mixing. In fact, at this point, St. Louis, Missouri, likely already in bands of half an inch to an inch per hour at least. So what we're going to be watching, and again, I'm going to go back to the timing here of the ETA, but watch kind of this pink mix zone here. That's going to be what allows us to kind of see the transition of warmer temperatures from snow to rain here. We continue to push this through. More than likely, snow going to arrive in Indianapolis between 8 or 9 a.m. Eastern time frame, South Bend 10 or 11 a.m., Evansville likely getting clipped as we get closer to 12 p.m., and then as we move this a little bit further here, Lansing and then the Indiana-Ohio border around 1 p.m., 2 p.m., and then more towards Columbus and Detroit as we get around 4 p.m. Eastern time frame here. Again, notice these darker blues. That represents those higher snowfall rates where even if you've got crews that have been treating, it's definitely going to start seeing more issues there just given how heavy those snowfall rates can be. And likely when you really start seeing that overtake your car, grass, roof, pavement, anything, any surface you got is going to be cold enough to allow for some of these snow accumulations. As we get towards 7 and 8, this is again where I want to point out this zone for those of you that are just joining us here. This is likely going to be the lower confidence zone where we need to watch closely for a potentially earlier transition from snow to rain, or where we can see some temperature issues where temperatures are just above freezing, and it's going to take those higher snowfall rates some significant punch, if you will, to actually be able to overcome those warmer pavement temperatures.
Yeah, one degree. One degree exactly in this situation, guys, makes a massive difference. 1 degree. That's in the grand scheme of things. In the grand scheme of things, that is a critical piece of it, and it's not a big difference, really. And so, 35 in Bloomington, 33 in Southport, 32 in Indy. It's not much of a difference, but it can make a huge difference in terms of total accumulations.
Yep, and if we get those heavier snowfall rates, that can also even help to lower temperatures a little bit too. So definitely a risk that we're going to have to keep an eye on here. In terms of exit timing, just to go through that again here for, I would say the main band of snow. Let's kind of here. Let me pull my drawing tool back up here. Again, kind of this zone that's dividing the blue and green. That's where we start to see more of a transition from snow to rain, with that warmer air again pushing up from the southwest to the northeast here. Mentioning 10 p.m. Eastern time frame, 9 p.m. Central time frame, Madison, Milwaukee, Chicago, Lansing, still dealing with heavy snow at this point, Brett, as it's working in from the west to the east. And then we'll take this all the way out to about 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Eastern time frame. I think the only thing I wanted to mention, Brett, here is that I do think that in these quarters, even for just to the west of Indianapolis, it's still going to be pretty warm out. We're in the mid 30s, but we likely can see at least some backside flurries and or drizzle that can work in here as well. That, given the system, that would also not surprise me as well here.
Yep. All right, guys. So that's the breakdown of it all. The totals, the timing. Again, our team's going to be keeping everybody updated on Clarity as we go throughout tonight. Here's claritywx.com/sign-up. You can get 40% off right now, guys. Clarity, again, $8 a month for our monthly plan here. And so you can click on that, and the price does not go up at renewal. So you're locked in. If you do $8 a month, you're locked in as long as you keep this subscription. If you do the 40% off, you're locked into that for the next year as well. It's valid for new subscribers, and you'll want it because, as I've pulled up here, this is not the last storm. In fact, there is another storm here, guys. There's another storm that is going to potentially cause some impacts as we get into early next week. Right now, the highest risk looking to come along the Ohio River and into parts of Ohio, but Indianapolis metro area also going to be at play for this. Don't have specific totals yet. You can kind of look at a general idea that down there in the image notes, but certainly another one to watch in terms of potential accumulations.
Absolutely, Brett. And this would also be what I would say is our first event where we have to watch the potential more for icing. More of a system that would suggest snow on the north side, more of a mix of freezing rain and sleet in the center, and then heavier rain more towards the Appalachians. So we would definitely be getting into that with a little bit more detail. And the great thing about Clarity, guys, Clarity Home with the videos and with the app and the Nowcast is that we're not just telling you the weather, we're teaching you about the weather. We're teaching you what the difference is between freezing rain and freezing drizzle and how it's going to impact your commute. We're teaching you why, as we look at two different models that say two different things, what the trend is and how that can impact you. And a lot of these insights and nowcasts that Brett has pulled up right now that he's kind of going through it, these are all tools to help you stay safe, to help you make important business decisions. It's one of my favorite aspects of being a meteorologist here at BAM Weather, because I get to help all sorts of people every day answer their questions and stay safe out there.
Yeah, and we've got the future radar in here. We've got future visibility. We've got future max wind gusts. Let's look at that real quick, actually, John, out in Iowa.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's going to be some gusty winds. You can see maybe a little aggressive, but briefly some blizzard-like conditions out here. Not off the table.
Yeah, definitely not. And I would say the other factor of this too, Brett, that we didn't necessarily get into, but the backside of the system as well, not just currently now, but we will have to watch for some gusts across the Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, southern Wisconsin, for some 25, 30 plus mile per hour gusts that, when we're dealing with 8+ inches of snow, Brett, you can really not only have visibility issues, but once the system passes, even some blowing snow or drifting snow issues for areas where the snow stays. So I definitely think that's a part of the story that we will need to get further into as we get into the next 24 hours.
By the way, here's our PaveCast tool that you can see there with our treatment recommendations. So if you're in the snow removal industry, this would also be a great time to take advantage of the 40% off deal for Clarity Pro, 40% off for PaveCast as well. So if you're trying to manage snow removal, you can see arrival timing in terms of snowfall totals, a range of snowfall totals. You can see exactly how much snow is going to fall by a certain time, and then of course whether you need treatment or not. So John, that's all that I have for right now. Again, we will be doing a client live later this evening. Really appreciate all of your support. I will throw one more time the QR code up here in the top right that you can scan, and you can take advantage of our ongoing holiday sale. We really appreciate all of you all for hopping on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you guys. Make sure to scan that QR code. Would love to see you be a part of our kind of community we're building on Clarity and helping keep everybody up to date on the weather. And stay safe out there. Stay safe off the roads. And go IU.
Go IU.